Most would agree healthcare is sick care. Mental health, medicine, insurance, they're all broken systems. And if you talk to doctors, they're frustrated because they can't produce results for their patients. And if you're a professional, an entrepreneur, a business leader, you know the value of operating at peak performance. And if you speak to the highest performing executives in the world, they're working with integrative practitioners who are blending traditional and non-traditional modalities of healing, bridging the worlds of physical and metaphysical together. I'm here today with world-famous cardiologist Adam Splaver. He's known as the doctor's doctor, and he's creator and author of Prescription for Freedom, a 7-step process for saving your life, your soul, your health, and your legacy while you still can. Dr. Adam, nice to be here with you, my friend.
Thank you for having me today.
All right, so I know you've taken time from your incredibly busy schedule to be with us today, and I thought we'd get things started. You've got a really compelling personal story that actually helped you and actually created the seed to create the system. So why don't you talk a little bit about that background and what happened?
So it was a usual day back in 2012, November 6, 2012, and I'd gone to the office when I had gotten a phone call from my mother-in-law telling me that my wife, Shani, was found unconscious. Before we knew it, and we went through our testing, we realized that she had had a bleeding stroke from a tumor that we were unaware of. And here we were at the point in our lives where we thought we were on top of everything. We had 4 kids who were amazing. My wife was training for a half marathon, and I was very involved in the community. And the only thought that can go through my mind at that point in time is, oh my God, what am I going to do now? And initially we were told that she had weeks. And I made an executive decision that whatever time we had left, we were going to use and live to its fullest. We went out, we traveled, we went to movies and dinners, and we dated. We had an amazing time. And what was supposed to be weeks turned into years. So I'm thankful and feel blessed that we had that extra borrowed time. Of course, towards the end, she was challenged. She lost her short-term memory. And that basically gave us an indication that things were turning worse. And the last 2 weeks of her life, we decided to put her in hospice at home, where she died in our bed with me and our kids around her. And in that process of mourning, in that process of grieving, began my journey, a sacred journey, to help me go from we to me. And that's where I created Prescription for Freedom, a 7-step process that can help not only myself, but others gain back their freedom and live the dreams that they possibly wanted to live.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I know about you and just spending time with you and working with you is you have taken all of this, you've used the system, created the system, and built the system without even being fully conscious of what you were doing. And years later, you've created an amazing profession for yourself. You've broken out of your traditional medical job. You've started this coaching advisory system that's really very futuristic, and you're working with executives. So why don't we talk a little bit about the system itself and what it is? So do you want to describe it a little bit and what it consists of and take us through the steps?
Well, the system itself goes through 7 steps that take you first and foremostly through detoxifying your environment. And when I say detoxifying your environment, I mean not only your physical environment, but your emotional environment, your relationship environment, your work environment. Removing things, removing foods, removing additives, removing people from your environment that don't serve you anymore. Because many of these things push you down. Many of these things prevent you from expanding, from moving on. And I have an example, a friend of mine who actually, who was a nurse in a hospital and didn't see his future because he was bogged down with a divorce and had many responsibilities at home, was able to realize that there were certain aspects of his life that he had to let go of, certain operating systems, certain beliefs. And in that vein was able to move forward and actually continue on his path to take advantage of becoming a nurse practitioner and expanding his own horizons.
All right, great. So for you then, step one is the environmental detox. So what's step two, and what did you do, or how have you used that yourself?
So step two was an honesty upgrade. Actually taking stock, looking at the operating systems, looking at the stories, looking at the way I spoke to myself, and honestly and gently and kindly changing them to stories, understandings that would help me further my mission, my desires, my passions.
Okay. Can you think of an example of what you did specifically in your own life for your honesty upgrade?
So one specific example comes to mind is when I was 7 years old, and I had the typical childhood, loving family. However, there was one event where my father got very angry with me to the point of rage. And I remember running to my room and seeing the fire in his eyes, and I barricaded myself in that room. And to recent history, I found myself terrified by those that were of the alpha male personality because of that interaction.
All right. So does that mean you've made yourself smaller around alphas until you realized you were doing it unconsciously?
Correct.
Or what? Okay.
Correct. It basically replayed that whole story. And only by addressing that story was I able to actually go beyond and put that behind me.
All right. And for you, when you're going through these are things that, again, they're traumas. They may have been installed in you at a really, really early age, something you carry through. They get triggered by all sorts of toxic relationships, environmental things that we talked about in the very beginning.
Not only that, but also these types of relationships, these types of interactions prevented me from actually having more money, having better sex, deeper relationships, and even affected my self-worth. So by addressing them, by releasing them, by transcending them, I'm able to move forward and actually actualize my dreams.
Okay. So speaking of that, what's the next step in the process?
The next step of the process is actually dreaming bigger. Dreaming and thinking of how your life could be if money or stories or different limiting beliefs were no longer holding you back. For me, it was actually reinventing my life on my own terms without being subject to societal rules or my past. And for me, it was actually the biggest change, or the biggest limiting belief was we. I was always a we, and I had to learn how to be me. And I didn't realize even how much that actually held me back. Even though I was still in love, and I probably could have been a better husband, father, or physician had I stepped into the me earlier in my life. And my biggest dream, which is I'm actualizing today, is creating this platform and sharing that which helped me as a human being, and delivering it to those that are interested and invested and are going to be a participant in this journey.
Right. No, I think that's one of the things that in seeing so many professionals, they struggle with their message, and then being able to build a platform, have the courage to add new capabilities to their lives, being able to communicate, speak publicly, learn how to communicate in the media, visualize this, and make those dreams come true. Very few people have done what you've done, potentially at the expense of their past profession, or as a professional, as a doctor, you've got so much invested in that. So what next? Speaking of taking a lot of risk and going out on a limb.
Correct. So the next step actually is what I call the metaphysical toolkit. So as a traditional Western trained doctor, we're given very precise, very scientific methodology that we must follow in order to help our patients. Well, in my journey, in my search, I've found that not only are we physical beings, but we're also energetic beings. And although some may call this woo-woo, some may call this the stuff of yogis, there are energetic as well as spiritual ways of dealing with dis-ease. More recently, we've been utilizing different modalities that treat not only mind, but body, heart, and spirit. And we've enhanced those modalities with tools, tech, and resources that really have never, ever been available before. For example, recently, the Brazilian Board of Cardiology actually has recommended that all their patients that have had some form of cardiovascular event partake in a regular practice of meditation and mindfulness. these things have a profound effect on health. These modalities are very healing.
Well, I know one of the things that we see a lot of these days, there's a lot of talk about plant medicine, and there's an enormous amount of science behind that. I know that there's a lot of facilities that are being opened. MD Anderson's done one recently. There have been many more. Does that fall under the metaphysical side of things?
So yes, actually, certain organizations that have been funded by the FDA, such as the MAPS group, have looked at indigenous plant medicines in their treatment of post-traumatic stress disorder, of panic attacks, of anxiety and depression. So there are a lot of integrative therapies that can augment, that can help, that can even strengthen the therapies that we have nowadays. And because I am a doctor, I have an MD after my name, I have access to a lot of these therapies that the general public doesn't.
Very good. Yeah, I know that's one of the things that there's a lot of woo-woo out there right now. There's a lot of people experimenting with a lot of crazy stuff, and without being under doctor's supervision, they're putting themselves, their brains, their families at tremendous amount of risk. So what comes after the metaphysical side of things? Where do you go next?
So after using the metaphysical toolkit, there is installing a new operating system. So we all know that when we buy a new computer, the system is not fragmented. It's not clunky. It's not herky-jerky. And in clearing up all those old stories and in getting rid of those toxic relationships and the toxic environment, we're able to actually install a better, more improved operating system that serves our purpose and actually catapults us into that desired future that we also want.
Okay. So can you think of any examples of how you either did that with a past patient or client, how you did that for yourself, and how you think of the operating system? So again, you go through the stages and the steps. You've got a process and a system for every one of them. But is there a specific example that pops into your head?
So there are certain limiting beliefs I had over the years, that I wasn't smart enough, that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't have enough initials after my name. And in essence, all those things were just a manifestation of my ego. They were a reflection of my own insecurities. And by addressing it, by actually understanding that it doesn't matter, that all these things are just a story, by installing the idea that I'm good enough no matter what, is in of itself very empowering and very energizing.
Okay. So what's the next step in the process from there after you go through the installing the new operating system?
So the next step of the process is actually elevating my network. Show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. The people that we surround ourselves not only are a reflection of where we are socially, mentally, energetically, but also have a profound effect on how we operate in our daily lives, how we interact with other individuals, how we show up at work, how we exercise, how we eat. So by changing our environment, including the relationships that we hold so dear to us, also will affect how we integrate and how we actually actualize what dreams and what we manifest in our world.
Okay. And I know we're going to get to that in a moment, but one of the things that you've been able to do is you've got professional group coaching. You've also got one-on-one coaching. And a huge part of that is you actually introduce people and elevate their networks and their groups by bringing right fit people together as well. But what's the final step in the process?
The final step is being the dream. After you've cleared out all the negativity, after you've installed a new operating system, after you've gone through all the stories and the limiting beliefs, you're actually able to step into your power, step into your future, step into your passion, and actually live the life that you truly want to live. And only by taking an integrative approach, by looking at mind, body, spirit, can one actually do this. And under the guidance of a doctor, a medical doctor, can we do this in a complete, thought-provoking, and deep way.
Right. And what I like about you and watching what you've done, what you've developed, you're a guy who's living the dream. You're using the system. Now you're bringing it to the world. But because you're going through a constant reinvention yourself, it's really exciting to see it and watch it. And you're doing what a lot of people want right now. They want to find a way to elevate themselves and do it in a great group. So why don't you talk a little bit about your group and your OneOnOne program that you're offering at prescriptionforfreedom.com.
So there are two aspects to our program, or at least two prongs. One is the group program, which is basically a 2-day mastermind twice a year, where we learn how to integrate all 7 steps in a small, intimate group mastermind-like environment. And it's going to provide experiences, resources, and systems that really aren't going to be available anywhere else. And in this process of joining this type of group, you and yourself will be able to elevate your own network, be able to interface with like-minded individuals who will be able not only to hold you accountable, but also to cheer you on, to root you on, and be part of your team in what you want to achieve. Obviously, this type of work is intense. It requires dedication, and it's only by application. Not everyone will be accepted to this type of group. And it's something I'm very excited and love doing and helping like-minded individuals.
Yeah, and it's very unique too. So what about the OneOnOne program that you put together? What does that involve, and what are the differences between the two?
So the OneOnOne program is going to be a lot more deep dive, looking at the biophysical, medical aspects of care, actually including tests and labs and diagnostics, not really available anywhere else. I have access as a physician to certain lab tests that not everyone is going to have access to. That includes aspects of functional medicine as well as other tests that will be tailored more towards your own care. And in this vein, it's important to do this with a real medical doctor. I know that there are other practitioners out there doing this, but it's not the same as if you're dealing with someone who actually sees the forest for the trees. It's a customized program really based on the Prescription for Freedom system. It'll be 2 days, twice a year at my luxury condo in Manhattan. And you'll have monthly concierge sessions. You'll have access to me as well as my team and access to my private research library. For more information, you can go to our website at www.prescriptionforfreedom.com for more information.
Okay. So I love the fact that you've rolled all this together into a process, into a step, and you've been able to use it. I think the most important thing is you live this yourself, like you are living the dream. And just in getting to know you and research you, I've watched how you've just overcome some huge personal challenges, and you've also taken the big leap that so many people, especially men and women who are professionals, executives, entrepreneurs, when they reach their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and they're like, I'm ready to go to the next level. Maybe they've reached a level of income and they've got comfort, and they're like, I know there's more outside here. And they finally have that moment when they realize that it is their limiting beliefs that's holding them back, but they don't know what they are and they're not sure who to turn to. And finding an MD that gets it on the level that you do is extremely rare. So is there anything that you want to say as we finish this interview up, Dr. Adam?
The bottom line is that no one can do your push-ups for you, that there is work. There's no magic bullet. There's no magic wand. And that in my experience, in my training, in the investment and time and effort and my own coaching that I've gotten for myself, I'll be there to at least push you along the process and help you achieve the goals that you would like to, as long as you're willing to do the work.
All right. Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you for walking us through the process. It's been awesome. And for you to learn more, to spend some time studying Dr. Adams' publications. He's gotten an enormous amount of media. He does a lot of television. He's supporting a lot of people. You can learn all of that at prescriptionforfreedom.com. Also, his personal site is thedoctorsdoctor.com, and that's available in the show notes below. So thank you so much for watching, and thank you, Dr. Adam.